I should say that again. We'll call the meeting to order at 3:37.
In attendance, we have Chair
In
Brian
attendance.
Barker.
Yep. Brian Barker, Jeanette, and Catherine, and Tony.
And I know Albert was hoping to join us.
Oh,
I don't see anybody yet, but I certainly will let him in.
Yeah, no,
once-
just give me a heads up.
Okay.
Pull up the agenda again. Okay, motion to approve the meeting minutes if you had a chance to review them. It's up to you and I, Jeanette.
okay. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I will second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Purchase applications, you have nothing to talk about?
No, I just always keep it on the agenda. So nothing for submittal to you all, and also nothing for me to review. It's come in, so just nothing.
Okay. So that brings us to 790 River Street.
Yep. So we're in the process of trying to get this closed. His attorney had a scare with COVID. So I'm just waiting to hear back from him. We prepared all the closing docs and they're at his office, but he asked for a little bit of time for him to return to work. So I'm going to check in with him again on Friday if I don't hear from him, but we should be able to close that by the end of the year. 103 Ferry, the contract went to the buyer and his attorney. Shouldn't be any issues there. The attorney has done land bank closings on the other side of me on a lot of different ones, so should be okay. 899 River Street, they have requested title on the property. We have to get a release, a reverter from the city on that one, which we'll get to clear title, but that's moving toward closing as well here pretty soon.
I'm going to go through my hard file to try to find a release, a reverter from the city for 899.
Okay.
I don't
I went-
believe they released that one.
Yeah, I went through mine and I couldn't find it. So I'm a little bit bummed because I thought we had all of them, but apparently not.
I kind of remember sending an email to, I think, the city that said, we're going to need one for 899, preferably before it's sold.
Right. Okay. So that's it on approved sales status.
Okay.
So we have enforcement is next. I can give a status there if you want.
I'm sorry, I was muted. I said, yes, the enforcement status.
Okay, so Tony and I connected with SEAT and arranged a procedure by which they'll be doing our enforcement, walkthroughs and interviews as far as progress on the property. So I had originally asked if they could complete a visit to each one of our properties by the end of the year. I had not received any response back on that, but maybe Tony has an update.
Yeah, I can provide an update. I had several conversations with George Brower from C. And I developed kind of a owner contact list, and it provides, the address, the owner's name, number, email, yada, yada, what the deadline is for their enforcement note, and just some notes that might be particular to any one property. One of the things, because we're getting close to the end of the year, one of the things I did for George was I took the list and I prioritized it, and I said, you know, if you're going to do it, please do it in this order. And the order is 822 River Street, 3209, 3211 7th Avenue, which I highly suspect we're going to hear nothing back from. But I said to George, please try to inspect it, at least for the record that we tried. Third priority, 3319 6th Avenue. He has something scheduled for that. I don't recollect what time. I think it's sometime next week. So that will be inspected. That's also the enforcement note mortgage deadline is December 31st on that one. So, and Barb Nelson emailed at some point and said she was confident they would have a CO by then. So I guess we'll find out soon. And I've been saying to Steve Pierce all along, if you need an extension, please let us know. So we don't run into a time problem. So that's the status with that in terms of inspections. That was number 4. I'm sorry, that was number 3. Number 4, 24 McClelland Avenue. I actually spoke to the realtor today, and they're very close to completion. And I'm actually getting good feedback from a couple neighbors that they're very happy with the change in the property. 5th is 288 10th Street. That didn't receive any EC funding, so I didn't make it a higher priority. That's 5th. 6th, 29 Park Avenue, which is Johnny Bobo. That one is very near completion, and I suspect by the time they get there, he'll be done. 3235 7th Avenue, which is the vacant building lot that we sold to Paul Palawota. And what I said to George was, we haven't really heard anything about what his plans are for building on that lot. Could you just check in and try to get an update as to what his thoughts are? And I had 3036 7th Avenue, that's Derek Jeter's project. And I've got that as doesn't need an inspection. He has a CO, but in my notes, I note that, I know you're gonna want this, Kate, that there needs to be follow-up for tax liens and whatever for your records, right?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
That's what you had said on one of the other ones, that in addition to the inspections, once they get a CO, you still need to see something about them not having liens.
Oh, right, because we're gonna get ready to discharge it, and if they owe taxes or anything, you know, we'll want to know that.
Okay, so that's the note in the file.
Tony, on that one, when I think you and I and Suzanne and maybe Andrew, if I remember
Yep.
correctly, visited a couple weeks ago.
Yep.
There were some issues that I'm just wondering if they got fixed. For instance, on the outside of the building, it looked as if, not sure what you'd call it, maybe some part of the trim around the roof seemed to be missing or not in place. Also, there were a couple of things on the interior where certainly the tile in the bathroom looked pretty shoddy. Anyway, just, sort of little cleanup things that I'm hoping got sufficiently completed.
Well, when I walked around the building, I actually noticed some of what you noticed, Jeanette. I also noticed that there was some overspray from the painting of the siding, and also where there were some window replacements. There really needs to be some kind of exterior trim infill. Sorry, we just got a text from Heather saying the number doesn't exist. And I have mentioned it to Derek, and the exterior stuff's probably going to wait till spring. But that you bring up a good issue. He's been issued a CO. So where does I guess is the question for Kate, where does our authority go with those kinds of issues?
Yeah, well, I certainly wouldn't rent it in the state I saw it. But that's me.
I'm sorry, Tony, I'm trying to get Heather the number,
Okay, go ahead.
so hold on.
Hey, Albert.
How you doing? I was
Okay.
muted.
Let me see if we can do it this way. Hold on. Hi, I'm gonna put you on speaker so at least you can hear. Okay,
It keeps telling me this meeting number did not exist.
weird.
And I kept hitting like the one tap mobile thing because I'm in my car.
Okay. All right, so Tony, if you want to re-ask that question, I'm happy to answer it.
So we
Oh,
were,
sorry, hi, guys.
hey, Heather. Jeanette, Andrew Cooper, Suzanne, and I did a walkthrough of 3036 7th Avenue, which is Derek Jeter's project. He's been issued a CO for each of the 2 units he has there. I noticed some odds and ends that need attention, and Jeanette did as well, both inside and outside. So the bottom line question is, now that he's been issued COs, do we have authority to come back to him and say, you know, there are some issues here that you need to address, or don't we have that authority?
You do, because we won't release the enforcement note without it.
Ah, okay.
Well, what are the issues? I'm sorry I'm so late. What did you notice that was wrong with the property? Because with the COs, it's habitable. The city's saying it's habitable. So what were you
Yeah.
noticing that were?
Sloppy work, Heather, for sure. And
Yeah,
well, sorry, Tony, go ahead.
not ladies first. Sorry.
Well,
You were talking.
I just noticed I'm telling you this, Heather, I would not rent it in the condition I saw it.
Okay.
Really sloppy work in the bathroom tiling. Also, painting issues in each of the bedrooms. Outside, the trim around the porch and roof seemed to be missing or incomplete. And also the steps and the railing to the porch were just not treated in any way. I think it was probably pressure treated wood, but it was just there. Not prepared in any way, for sure.
So do you want my professional opinion as far as how this impacts the livability and the structural soundness of a dwelling?
Tony had some other ones as well, so.
No, I mean, but it sounds like aesthetically that it might have been an inferior job than what was expected. But what you're telling me, it's not something that would even be flagged for FHA, and that would be considered a hazard or impacting the livability of a property.
Okay.
So if we're going to be starting now to monitor, I mean, I don't know how much we're going to have to monitor as far as the quality, and again, I wasn't there, so my apologies, but it's scope of work, was it that specific, that the trim type and the paint? I mean, is it he failed to fulfill the scope of work and the obligation? I mean, Kate, I guess is that what they're asking you?
Well, yeah, and I mean, it's very limited. You know, we hold them to what they say they're going to do in their application. And this issue has come up before with other land banks with similar, you know, issues that Tony and Jeanette are reporting. And it really comes down to what you're saying. Do you want to be the board that says, okay, there's a CO it's habitable and we'll discharge the mortgage? Or do you want to be the board that says, listen, you know, we have some issues with a property that's gone through our program. We'd like you to address as many as you can for us and see what they say.
Well, the whole thing is, if it's not right the first time around, to me, this doesn't indicate a good future, you know, just, you know, part of what we're supposed to be doing here is improving neighborhoods. And this to me is like a half-assed job, frankly. It's either done or it isn't. And that's just my opinion. I'm not saying what kind of board we should be. It's just one would hope that we'd start off with a great product.
Well, right, Jeanette. I mean, and when I say what kind of board do you want to be, that's my whole point. What kind of land bank do we want to be? Do we want certain standards in our you know, program? I think your position is well placed. You know, I mean, you're right. It's supposed to improve, and you know, if we're the enforcing party, somebody might say, well, you know, was that really acceptable to you? I keep losing Heather, by the way, so.
Jeanette, I would agree with you. There are workmanship issues all over the place. It is definitely habitable, but I was not impressed with the
Right.
quality. But I will say, in terms of, you know, improvement to the neighborhood, even though his workmanship was not what I would really have expected. If you remember the building that he took over, it literally had grass growing out of the carpet on the second floor. So, so we did do something to improve the neighborhood. I wish it could have been a little bit better of an improvement.
Well, I
You
think
certainly
I
are in, you
my
certainly
feelings
are
here.
in the position to ask for some remediation if that's what you want to do.
Oh. Anybody else want to weigh in? Oh, you weren't there. Got it. But
Well,
I think
I
it's
know he
a
wa-
question then, an issue that perhaps we'll visit again. And I don't know, how do we feel about it? I'm of the opinion that it should be the best it can be. I don't know what the guy is charging for rents, but so much for that.
I know he wants to do more work with us. So I'm pretty sure that if we gave him a checklist, a punch list, he would tend to it. So there is that. I don't know if the board's going to want to give him any more work, but I know he's interested.
And what kind of leverage do we have for the punch list work? I mean, we have.
Well, we won't release the enforcement note and mortgage for poor workmanship. So we retain a lien that we can foreclose unless they do what we want.
Yeah. And is most of the punch list work cosmetic, like a little more taping and painting kind of thing?
Yeah, it's cosmetic. I can't think of anything that's not cosmetic. You know, I know, Jeanette, you mentioned the handrail at being pressure treated. Depending on what kind of pressure treated lumber it is, I think you have to wait a year before you can actually paint it.
True. I know, because I painted my own.
Yeah. I think probably it is mostly cosmetic, but it's a little stuff that counts. And I'm just, having lived in a depressed neighborhood for several years here, I know that, it's like the broken window theory. I just don't want to see it start off in a less pristine condition than one would come to expect is all.
I kind of agree with Jeanette from a personal standpoint, and I'm Jeanette's neighbor, so you know, I think sometimes you know, certain neighborhoods get low expectations, and that's just really unfortunate.
Exactly. Yeah, and ours is, you know, Brian, ours doesn't have it's not like we live on the east side. So I just would rather see it be the best we can possibly make it, and feel proud that the land bank, you know, had a hand in helping transform the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Anyway, so much.
I agree with your sentiments, and not having really seen the workmanship. I would say if we can give them a punch list for cosmetic items and let them know that, hey, you know, we're expecting decent work, you know, I think that sends a good message for the land bank without being too hardball about it. I mean, if they have
Right.
a CO and all that.
Yeah, I don't want to ruin the guy's chances here. I just would like to have it be as best it can be, and feel good about it.
Well, I think that's the way you present it is, you know, if you want to continue to rehab land bank properties, you know, we really would like to see you improve a little bit on, you know, what you've done, and couch it in those terms, you know, I mean, because when the A&D committee sees another application, you're going to think twice about it, right? What was the quality of work? And that's a big thing that's discussed at land bank meetings all over, you know, the state is
Yeah.
this a reputable rehab? So.
Yeah, I mean, if it's C minus, D plus work, and we want B plus or better, you know,
Right.
we need to say so.
Yeah, we'll have to develop a protocol to do that, of course.
Sure.
Sure, we can steal something from some other land bank.
Not that
Well,
I know of,
I
but-
think, you know, putting it in the terms, does this have to be a written communication?
I mean, I would suggest that I have a good relationship with Derek. There was one thing I noticed on a walkthrough with him about a month ago, and I suggested to him that he do something about it. It was a really soft spot in the floor, and I noticed that it was still there. So, you know, I do have a pretty good relationship with him. I know he wants to do more with the land bank. This is not a good example for him. So I think I can have a pretty open conversation without it being hardball, and just explaining to him, you know, we were expecting a little bit better quality. Here's a punch list, and can you address these issues?
Yeah,
That-
sounds,
Okay.
yeah, I'm fine with that, and hope he complies.
Well, if you can come up with your punch list, I'll start mine, and we can merge them, and I'll have a conversation with them.
No problem.
Okay.
Okay.
What's next?
All right.
Foreclosure statuses. I have the title reports back on the properties, but they didn't attach some of the documents I need to see that back it up. So I'm still waiting for those. I know Tony had a chance to, which building is it, Tony? Look, it's on River, right? 785?
780. Yeah, 785 River Street. I was on top of 791 River Street Tuesday and looked over at 785 roof, and the four chimneys are in a state of collapse. The roof looks horrible. That building, when we acquired it, at least when I came on board, is in such, oh boy, such terrible condition that you literally are not safe walking through the building. I mean, very seriously. So, you know, the same person that owns 785 owns 836 River. And I know RPI has an interest in 785 River. But for the protection of the land bank, I mentioned to Kate, I wonder if we're better off not taking back 785 River Street and letting this guy, be on the hook with code enforcement for it, because if it ends up in our hands, it's going to be a very large financial liability if it has to be demolished. And what makes demo even a problem is we invested a pretty good amount of money to stabilize masonry, I believe, in the back of the building. So Enterprise certainly won't be happy if that's how it ends, if we have ownership of it.
I have some thoughts on this, but it really should be an attorney-client privilege session, executive session, in order to advise you on that. So if you want to finish the meeting, we could adjourn for a few minutes quick to talk about that and then finish up the meeting. It's up to you.
That's fine.
Okay.
Any other updates on?
No. Oh, wait, yeah. So 822 River, because I was thinking foreclosures, but on 822, we were able to work with, I always get, yes. Yes. To get a new plan in place and to modify the current existing enforcement note and mortgage to extend the project deadline for, I believe it's another year. So that's in progress. And I think Tony was fairly happy with, where we're going to go from here and her ability to complete it. So I think we're in decent shape on that one.
Kate, can you remind me where we're at with 3209, 3211 7th Avenue?
Yes, we're waiting on title to bring the action.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
I know you mentioned it before. I just couldn't remember.
Yep. And that's it for my updates.
Okay. Updates on properties and projects.
So let's see. Do we want to start talking about 791 River Street? I think there's some legal issues there that we may not want to discuss in an open meeting, right, Kate?
Yes. So I would just do what's on the agenda and then we can adjourn for executive session.
Well, how do we find out what's happening with 791?
You will.
Okay.
So update on projects. 11 Winnie Avenue, the status is really about the same. Johnny Bobo still needs Russ Reeves to submit some revised drawings to the city, and he hasn't done that. He has done that for 3229 6th Avenue. That happened 2, maybe 3 weeks ago. So Johnny is at work on that building. And I believe what he's been working on is stabilizing the roof, permanent stabilization of the roof structure and encapsulation of the roof. The roof contains quite a bit of asbestos. So the reason Russ Reeves had to do some more work on it was the cost of asbestos remediation is far higher than encapsulation of the asbestos. Of course, that's not the best way to go about things, but financially, with the budget we have for that project, the asbestos remediation would have just been enormous and would have blown the budget out of the water. 54 Fifth Avenue, I just received photos from George Brower. They're starting to replace the windows. They put a new front stair entryway on the building, and they've completed all the stabilization in the basement. And from what I saw in the photos, I thought it looked really, I think the Youthville folks did a nice job down there. So I can circulate those photos to you if you would like.
Sure.
No, I'll circulate them, and if you don't want to look at them, you don't have to. How's that?
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
Otherwise, I think we're starting to run out of inventory. So that's what I've got for you, Brian, as
Okay.
far as updating projects.
Okay, there's nothing else on the agenda. We can adjourn and go to executive session.
Yep, we will adjourn to go to, motion to adjourn to executive session for attorney-client privilege discussion.
A second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, meeting
Aye.
adjourned.
Okay, so we are adjourning from executive session and returning to the acquisition and disposition meeting. No action was taken. It was just an attorney-client privilege discussion regarding 791 River Street. All right, Chair, it's back in your hands for adjournment.
Okay. So we have a motion to adjourn.
I second.
Okay, I think. All right.
Yep, just you and
That's good.
Jeanette.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Meeting's adjourned.
Thank you, everybody.
Are we going into exec or?